This is why we want Punchestown, because we want to know whether that Cheltenham race was, as it looked, fell apart. I know why I'm picking fast or slow, but you make your case.
My lay of the week is Galopin Des Champs.
Boom, big. Right. When people talk about Willie Mullins and his effect on racing, and some people suggest his effect is negative on racing, it's not his fault. He is the best at what he does. Call it here and now. Who is it going to be?
Whoever rides the most winners.
Oh, get off the fence. Hello and welcome to a very special episode of The Inside Track, brought to you by William Hill Ireland here at Punchestown to preview this week's Punchestown Festival. And I'm really pleased to be joined by some legends of the game. Sean Flanagan and Barry Geraghty, William Hill Ireland ambassadors, and Johnny Ward, broadcaster and journalist, and one of the savviest punters in the game. So, with Punchestown on the horizon, guys, the perfect way to end the National Hunt season. Sean, what makes it so special?
I suppose there'd be a lot of different reasons why it can be so special. This year it's obviously going to be very special because there's a very tight champion jockey's title going into it as well. And it's going to come right down to it, I'd say. Jack is actually doing a fantastic job at holding Paul all the way. He kind of has him at 4, 5, 6 winners, and the fact Paul is in the UK a bit the last couple of days is probably not helping his cause. But if he can get here, I suppose, with a couple of winners behind, he probably has a fair chance of reeling him back in.
Yeah, that's the theme that's going to run throughout the week. Personally, I just hope that it isn't over after 2 days if Paul Townend rides 3 and 4 winners a day. But Johnny, as a punter, they flock to this festival. Why?
Well, it's our premier National Hunt Festival, really. The Dublin Racing Festival is 2 days, but that's a relatively new incarnation. And Punchestown is all about the local area as well. My girlfriend's from Naas, and she would describe when she was young, everyone getting a half day off school, and there's a special vibe around the place. As a punter, it's quite tricky because a lot of horses who are trained for Cheltenham flop at Punchestown, and I think it's key that you come here, analyse the horse before the race, see what you think, because you will get a lot of horses turned over at short odds, and that's what makes it quite tricky. Yeah,
that's happened in the past. I remember Kivega, the brilliant Kivega, even though she wasn't after a difficult season, she didn't quite get to Punchestown. And Barry, that can be it can be a coronation of champions, but they can also collapse at the final hurdle, shall we say. It's not always as predictable as people think.
No, it's not, and that's it. And you see Gold Cup winners come back here. Galopin Des Champs last season, for example, getting turned over. But other Gold Cup winners, I won it in Kicking King after his Gold Cup. Moscow Flare got beaten in his Champion Chase. He won one here as well. So it ebbs and flows. But the superstar at Cheltenham can be vulnerable here.
And could this, given the season that we've had a unique year in terms of Willie Mullins with the British Trainers' Championship, Nicky Henderson having a blank for the first time since 2008. Could this week be his redemption, shall we say?
Potentially. I suppose the fact John Bond goes to Sandown probably takes a little bit from it, but he's going to have a good few numbers here. Sergino is in, who was impressive at Aintree. He will be well represented. He generally brings probably 6 or 8 maybe, but I'd say he'll have a little bit more than that this year, and hopefully he does. But you'd imagine what he will bring will be very competitive.
Yes, and hopefully we'll get on to Shishkin for day 2 for what I think will be the race of the week. So that is just a flavour of what we can expect at the Punchestown Festival. But we have whiteboards. We have a job for everyone here. We're going to kick on to day 1. Okay, you've all got a black marker and a whiteboard. Day 1 of the Punchestown Festival features 3 Grade 1 races: the William Hill Champion Chase, the 3 Mile Novices Chase, and the 2 Mile Novices Hurdle. I want your selections for each Grade 1, and I want an outsider along with the storyline that you think could capture us on day 1. The Tuesday of the Punchestown Festival. Let's go. Ready for the big reveal? On 3. 1, 2, 3. William Hill Champion Chase. We have 2 votes for Banbridge, Dino Blue, and I'm going rogue with Gentleman to Me. We'll start with the mare. Were you disappointed with her at Cheltenham, Barry?
No, the ground was obviously a bit soft, and I never felt. I thought she a 2 mile. That's her thing. Okay. Stepping up on trip on soft ground, I think she had a lot against her. I think she is the one to beat. Now I have put in Banbridge for my value because I think he is the value alternative. I do like him if he goes here. I think it's a more winnable option for him than the Gold Cup. But she does set the standard on this ground. But he would be the alternative.
Do you think the mare was ridden to get the trip at Cheltenham rather than to be the best horse, if you get what I mean?
Well, so she was ridden patiently to get the trip on the ground. So the trip is accentuated on the ground, if you like. But if you rode her forward and she didn't get the trip, you'd
be kicking yourself.
Yeah, that wasn't the smartest thing. So I think they gave her best chance of winning. She didn't get there, but she went very close.
She did. Two very good mare, Limerick Lace. It was a very good race at Cheltenham. 2 votes for Banbridge. Sean, you're thinking he's going to come back and trip rather than go for the Gold Cup?
I think it's kind of more along the lines of he's just not good enough really for the Gold Cup at this year's Gold Cup, put it that way. It's going to be a very, very hot race. I do think it's going to be a lot sharper on this kind of ground. And I was at Kempton the day he won over there on nice ground, and he was first run open company, and I was impressed enough to me. He does have to get his jumping together a little bit, and it will be definitely tested here a lot more than it was there on the day. But yeah, I'm going to stick with him.
He's a different prospect on this ground. Were you anyway disappointed with the Ryanair performance?
I put it solely down to ground really. I spoke to JJ before the race, and he was like, they were borderline whether they would or wouldn't take part on the day, and they took their chance, and it just didn't work out, I think, you know.
Yeah, is he good enough to win over 2 miles? Does he have the tactical pace?
He's in this race because, like, we might if it's $6,000 to finish sixth here, and I'm not even sure there will be 6 runners in the race. So, like, it's
you're nearly running it yourself for $6,000.
Well, I was just thinking, like, if you think in advance and you aim horse for these races, you can pick up some nice prize money. But sometimes, if you have like a 1 to 5 shot in this race, sometimes it's more interesting to have an open race, like, you know, like that you can have a good bet and have a good opinion.
We're not going to have a 1 to 5 shot, though, are we?
No, exactly. So, you know, with the race in Sandown, it's changing. But I'm never Dino Blue's biggest fan, to be honest, and there was criticisms in some respects of the ride at Cheltenham. Don't see it myself, to be honest. I think she'd every chance, and she was beaten by a stayer on the day. She'll be better on this ground, but Banbridge at the price for me is definitely the value, and he'd be as fresh as a daisy coming here, because as Sean says, I'd forget about Cheltenham. Okay,
well, I'm going to make my case for Gentleman to Me. I think, like Banbridge, he's a different proposition on good ground. He's a different horse in the spring, and unlike Banbridge, he doesn't lack gears. He has
Captain Guinness as well. Like,
yeah, I'm going to get to Captain Guinness in a minute. Yeah, he has a different level of form at this time of year, and I think he'll be a price. As for Captain Guinness, is it just a case all the stars aligned? He's not really reliable, Barry. You know, did he just pick up pieces?
I think you could say that. If Dinah Blue lined up in the Champion Chase, would she have beat him? I think she possibly would have, and that's no disrespect. He's a very good horse. He's danced every dance. He has some good form, but it was his first time to get his head in front at the top level.
Yeah.
They walked up the hill.
Yeah, they walked
up the hill.
This is why we want Punchestown, because we want to know whether that Cheltenham race was as it looked. Fell apart.
Set the record straight.
Yeah.
Set the record straight. That'll be the title of this episode. Okay.
Some good past renewals as well. Moscow Flyer, and I don't know if you ever heard of him. Geraghty rode.
Speaking of 1 to 4 shots getting turned over, as you mentioned earlier on, Johnny.
That's Garbo.
At Garbo. Both share, yeah.
And you rode Sprinter Sacre in it.
Sprinter, beat Size in Europe, which is a good performance,
And whether Barry admits it or not, it's the best horse he ever rode. The novice hurdlers, I think we all agree. I have Mystical Power mentioned just in case Ballyburn goes to 2.5, but the best novice hurdler we've seen this year?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I suppose I've put down Ballyburn, and realistically, should I have put down Slate Steel as a backup, because if Ballyburn does go up and trip, Slate Steel will probably come here.
Yeah.
I'd
play a game of cat and mouse.
Yeah. And where Mystical Power has been to Aintree, it's hard to do the 3.
Yeah, I was just at a press morning at Mullins's the other day, and he was pulling his rider's arms out after Aintree. I just couldn't believe it. Galileo's love hardship after all. The 3 mile novices chase was a race that fell apart last year. I think it could be a better renewal this year. And you, Sean, are looking at a unique double if Intense Raffles can follow up winning the Irish National.
Yeah, I suppose he was ridden like the best horse in the race in the Irish National. He's definitely a young horse that's severely on an upward curve. He probably does want slower ground. Whether he's going to get it or not, I don't know. But then you flip the coin over. Is he going to be a better horse on a bit better ground? We haven't seen him on better ground, and I don't know.
You can't knock him until you try him.
Can't knock him until you try him. He's a horse, as I said, on an upward curve. Monty Star is in there as favourite. He definitely wants softer ground, and I just don't know if the form of his Cheltenham run is very strong.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I always thought Monty Star maybe lacked a little bit of tactical something. You are going intense raffles as well for the same case?
Yeah, and it was, I think Simon Eyre and Isaac Swade to give a horse Tom Gibney, brilliant for racing. And it meant the world to him. I met him before he'd run and he was so excited. I'm not sure he envisaged what has happened so far. This horse has loads of ability. Any second now was probably thrown in the National. He still beat him. 6 years of age after a mistake. I'm much on this.
Your sentiments apply also to Spallan's Tower, but instead of me selfishly explaining it, Barry, why do you fancy him?
I think the step up and trip, you're going to see more improvement. I love the route he's taken by not being at Cheltenham, not being at Aintree, Fairyhouse, gained a good level of experience. He was beaten over 2 mile on his previous start at Navan, so that's forgivable. Put in a good performance. That wasn't soft ground. He probably needs a little bit of juice to make it here on Tuesday. He needs the ground to be as wet as it can be within reason. But I think up and trip is going to bring more improvement than him.
People give out about Willie Mullins. Willie Mullins runs the horse against each other. It's down to the owners where the horses go.
100%.
And the owners will see the kick that everyone gets out of the horse being spread around like Spallan's Tower.
Yeah, and from my own mind, I'm not actually sure 3 miles is actually going to be his bag, just given his pedigree, and he's not slow. I thought it turned into a sprint at Fairyhouse, so you wouldn't even say that was a proper 2.5 mile test.
But if he does stay and walk in the parks with that much class, it's going to be exciting.
He's exciting anyway, Johnny. Yeah,
Really exciting.
Yeah, he would be really exciting. It would be interesting to try him and see. But I know Intense Raffles is the dour horse, so it would be a fair test for him.
Gibney wouldn't say he's dour now. He'd be like, he's all class, this horse.
He may well be, but I would argue like Denman was a dour horse. You have both.
Doesn't make him a slow horse.
Doesn't make him a classless horse. So the next point 4 on our boards is the outsider. It's the horse that isn't maybe top of the market that you think is going to make an impact. And you, interestingly enough, Barry, have gone for the horse that the top guy that Sean and Johnny thinks was almost the banker in the 2 mile.
Yeah, but he's a big price at the minute. A banker.
Is he a big price because punters don't know where he's going to run?
Possibly. But to me, he's less to beat here than he would have in the Gold Cup. I do think he's a very good horse. Does he have the pace of Dino Blue? I'm not so certain. I think he's going to need an end-to-end gallop to beat her.
He hasn't had a hard year.
No, he hasn't, which is a big positive for him. And the track will bring out the best from him. Big track. He won in Kempton over 2.5 mile. Kempton's a sharp track, even over that trip. It's on the inside of the hurdle track, while the chase track here is on the outside of the hurdle track. That's a big difference. Like the circuit here is about 1.6 miles. So it's a long way around. It'll give him a good chance. I love how he jumps. And Kempton was probably a little bit sharp for him. It was his first run of the season, first run in Open Company. I think he's a big shout. But would he have the gears to beat the mare? I wouldn't be certain enough to make him a banker. But he's definitely, he's good value. He's an each-way alternative.
Sean, you like Firefox for the novices hurdle?
Yeah, I suppose wasn't beaten far in Aintree.
Would you be concerned he got 2 hard races?
Yeah, that's what I'm just, he's got 2 hard races, and that's why I kind of have him as an outsider. It's an open enough contest, I thought, and I just took him up as an outsider.
Didn't have a busy campaign between the Lawlers.
Yeah, he's only had a handful of runs in the season. Like we're probably getting to latter stage. Like Aintree's not that long ago, and he had a hard enough race, and it was raining on the day, and it was slower ground towards the end of the day. So yeah, this is the only worry I'd have, but I think he's a very big price for what he's done.
Jack Kennedy will be hoping he can win. What have you got there? Absurd.
Not absurd.
Named after yourself.
Well, that's fair enough, yeah. Thanks for that, Jane. This horse has loads of ability on the flat.
Yes.
Won on heavy ground somehow, Cheltenham. Couldn't believe it. So it's not absurd to put up absurd.
Somehow he
brilliant
got
ride by
just
PT.
this saintly ride, yeah.
Saintly ride. If he can click, what's he rate? 100 odd on the flat, right? So if he gets going over hurdles, this horse could be, and this ground drying out here, I'm so delighted to see good yielding ground. after all the rain we've had. It's a blessing, and it's put everyone in better form at the races to see the ground drying out, the sun shining.
Handicap experience counts.
And exactly.
Company.
Exactly.
Can I ask though, the 2 mile, the county hurdle track at Cheltenham requires very little jumping in the last 6 furlongs of the race. He's a bad jumper. In my book, he's very adequate.
He's a flat jumper, kind of.
He's a fascinating rock.
Yeah.
So would that be a worry around a track as undulating and as testing as Punchestown?
A bad jumper, and what was the word you used there? A bad jumper and a... You said
he's by fascinating rock.
You know, you said you accurate or adequate.
I would say adequate in terms of
okay.
He gets from
like
A to B.
If he can get to A to B with the level of ability he has, I think it might be okay. Like
if you can stay competitive in a handicap on that track, on the new course, you're going to be very much in your comfort zone among novices. They won't be the same intensity. So if there's the last 2 hurdles are over 6 furlongs, means the previous 6 are over 1 mile and 2. So he had a busy first 1 mile and 2. So I'd say he could be okay.
I don't know who'd ride him actually, but there we go.
That'd be a conversation for another day. But like we saw with the Scottish National, Willie has some good super subs. My outsider will be the mount of Tom Costello. And I thought he ran a smashing race in the Supreme.
Absolutely, yeah.
If we got a small field, he can be a little bit keen. It would be easier to switch him off. And I was just really taken by how that horse came up the hill at Cheltenham, despite probably not having the run of the race. So
Step him up and trip, he's fascinating as well down the line.
Yeah, but he's not slow. Yeah, I think if I was to run him in something, it'd be the 2 mile. But that's just my my predicament. My story of the day, I think, is an unsung hero of the season and of many seasons, and that's Mark Walsh. He's had a tremendous year riding, obviously, because JP McManus has such good horses. But, you know, we mentioned Spallan's Tower, we mentioned Dino Blue, we mentioned all of these good horses like Mystical Power, but we mentioned the horses and the owner. And I think it suits Mark. He doesn't really want limelight, but I think he deserves a little bit of credit. Would
Absolute
you agree?
class act, and should have been riding way more top horses over the years, just the way it's worked out for him. Second fiddle to other jockeys at times, and you would have worked with him, Barry, obviously. I think everyone in the weighing room understands this lad is top class.
Oh yeah, as a rider and as a person, like he is a brilliant fella.
Remember what he did for Mangan right as well. Like remember, like this is a proper fella. Like
he went over when Nico was knocked out. He rode Jericho de Repelin and a couple of very good horses in the UK. Does anything faze him mentally? He just seems so relaxed.
No, very calm, and you can see that in his riding. You know, lovely, patient rider. Horses jump, horses travel. As you say, an unsung hero. Just because he doesn't promote himself. He is a quiet fella naturally. Great company. So he doesn't advertise himself the way others might do or have done over the years.
The way Jimmy Mangan would.
He's more of a Jimmy Mangan, yeah. An unsung hero. Speaking of unsung heroes.
That's your story of the day. I obviously hope it is a story of the day, but it was good at Fairyhouse when it happened.
Oh, absolutely. But it was Jimmy did it. Like, it was great to see. And you see what, like you talk about, you know, Tom Gibney with intense raffles, you know, and you have Jimmy, then what it meant to him to win at Fairyhouse. So if that happens, you know, there'll be a few wet eyes in the house if Jimmy comes in. I'm sure you included.
You're welling up already, maybe.
Yeah, I'd say they were expecting something from me at Fairyhouse, but I was like, yeah, you don't know me.
After all these years, Jimmy's winning races, but Battle of the Boyne might win the bumper.
A race?
Like a race, just the name of this
just
horse.
For,
Gordon Elliott.
For our viewers now, there's 2 bumpers on the first day.
Yeah, so this is I think he's in the Land Rover bumper. Battle of the Boyne is one of the most conscientious battles that ever took place in Ireland. We're still living.
Are you picking a horse off his name?
Yes. 100%. Either this horse is very good or no good at all, and we'll find out, right? But it won't be in between.
You refer to him as a very good punter, and he's picking a horse.
I was just going to say, I'm going to have to re-record the opener.
This is the lump of the day. What does Sean have there? Get the spot.
Well, Sean's is that it's going to thread throughout the week. Personally, I just hope it's not over after 1 or 2 days, because Townend has the artillery to fire, but all season, Sean, it's been a battle that has slowly come to the boil.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be fair, credit to Jack, like he's had an injury-marred career, and it's the first year I'd say he's had a clear run at it. And it just goes to show, you know, he's well able. Obviously, Gordon is a massive back-end, but Jack has started to pull in a few outside rides towards the end of the season. He would probably he could have 200-300 more rides than Paul Townend as well. So it just goes to show the artillery that Paul has and the level of ability that the horses have that he rides. But Jack is able to do it just from a different angle.
Yeah, at the time of recording, Jack is a 6-winner lead. Paul has ridden no winner for anybody other than Willie Mullins. Jack has gone out there with a conscious effort to get outside rides and to do what champions need to do. It's well documented how fabulous a rider Paul Townend is. But can we just take a moment to... Jack Kennedy's been runner-up to Paul in the Champion Hurdle, the Gold Cup and the Aintree Grand National. If he were to get caught, it would be the story of a season of seconds, wouldn't it, Barry?
Yeah. That would be tough, yeah. Jack is an unbelievable rider, but likewise Paul,
they are both gifted.
That's what I was just going to say. Like you will very rarely see a horse run keen with either rider. Jack in particular, I've never, since Conor O'Dwyer, I haven't seen any rider who can put a horse to sleep the way Jack can. He is, but that's reflected in his personality as well, because Jack is horizontal. So no, very talented, deserves everything he gets. I'm a big fan of both, but if anyone deserves it, it's Jack. But then going back to it as well, you say Paul has all this firepower. How many times have you seen Willie win with the third or fourth string here? So it's not necessarily, it's end of season, the favourite doesn't always pitch up, and there's no doubt Paul will be on the favourite. So I think he has a healthy enough lead at this stage. If he starts the week 6 winners ahead of Paul, he's going to be hard to catch.
Paul Townend rode 11 winners here last year. We move on to day 2 of the Punchestown Festival. Another 3 Grade 1s. For me, the race of the week, the Punchestown Gold Cup, the 3 Mile Novices Hurdle and the Champion Bumper. We're going to have an outsider and we're going to have a story of the day. Get cracking. So, for the day 2 reveal, are we all ready?
We are indeed.
Reveal in 3, 2, 1. The Punchestown Gold Cup is going to 2 horses, apparently. I will start with you, Johnny. I know why I'm picking Fast or Slow, but you make your case.
My lay of the week is Galopin Des Champs.
Boom, big.
Right, because this horse, it's a bit of a see the stars about this. Can he keep dancing the dance at this level? I felt he had a really hard race at Cheltenham, and maybe people say, oh, he won handy. He had the loose horse up the hill. It was awful testing ground for a Gold Cup. Jerry Colomb is a really good, tough horse who finished second. Corey Rambler third. There were really dour stairs in behind him. I feel that he obviously was beaten in the race last year. The loose horse.
Fast or Slow.
Was Fast or Slow.
And -10.5.
But he still ran the full 3 1/4.
I did tip up a horse one day on the basis of his run before in a sprint where he was riderless the whole way, and that didn't go very well. That was a few years ago. Fast or Slow won this race last year. Totally different ground. JJ is going to ride him to come with that late run, and yeah.
He was in pole position in the Gold Cup. He had a lovely position. JJ went.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the ground though. I'm not sure what the Gold Cup was his day. For me, Galopin Des Champs is going to be vulnerable because last year he looked a good thing. This year, to me, he's had a really tough season and he did a really hard race to the Gold Cup.
I'm going to just add into the fact that I think Fast or Slow is a much better horse going right-handed.
Yeah,
and I think the more evidence we get of him at Leopardstown compared to Punchestown, I think we're slowly, steadily realising it, that his form of the 2 races that he ran behind Cork Rambler and commander of the fleet over hurdles at Cheltenham, it's just not the same level of what we've seen from him here in the John Durkan and in last year's race. So that's why
What a race. What a race. This is the race of the week.
This is throw in Shishkin, the prospect of a maybe Cork Rambler. It's a vintage renewal. It's always been good. You've won 4 of them. Would you'd be riding Galopin Des Champs if you had the choice?
I would. He was beaten last year as a 7-year-old. I think it's a big difference going back as an 8-year-old.
I correct myself, you won 5.
I did more like correct. It's okay. One of them was
He's so humble, Barry.
One of them was a Farias though, so technically you're right. First
one of the gents.
Who was the race for you?
Moscow Express.
Oh, wow.
Florida Pearl.
Wow. Going back
20, I think, or 21 or something. So anyway, a while ago.
Good skincare.
They say you never see a wrinkle on a balloon. Anyway, back to the point. I got beaten last year as a 7-year-old. Hadn't recovered from Cheltenham. I don't disagree that he would have had a tougher time in the Gold Cup than you would be led to believe. But I don't think we saw him at his best last year. So I think he is the one to beat. I would agree completely. And Faster Slow's record against Gallop in the Champ here at Punchestown is very good. So I would agree as Faster Slow being a big danger, but I would have more faith in Gallop in the Champ as an 8-year-old.
What will Shishkin do?
Does anyone know what Shishkin's going to do?
I feel like you'd know more than any of us.
I obviously thought he was going to win the King George like everyone did, and I was forgiving Shishkin for everything he's done all season until he won at Newbury. How he performed at Newbury, wouldn't see him compete in a Cheltenham Gold Cup, a Punchestown Gold Cup. So no, I couldn't rely on him. If he puts forward his King George performance, he's bang there. But even is that, when you analyse that in depth, is that really solid form? Brave Man's Game had been to too many dances. And
Allaho wasn't staying.
Allaho wasn't staying. And yeah, so you could question the strength of the King George form. But on the same token, then I've put in Corrick Rambler, if we want to move to him, as being value.
We'll get to Corrick Rambler in a moment. But Sean Flanagan, Paul Townend's unavailable. Everybody else is, doing other things. You're riding Gallop in the Champ, you're going down to the start. Do you just book out and make all?
I think it's probably the most straightforward way of riding him. Like he's got such a level of ability that you can, I'd say if you got him switched off in front, you just poke along, JJ will get to you and start pushing you forward and you go from there.
So if you're JJ, do you wait until after the turn into the straight so you don't help Paul?
Yeah, well that's what you done last year, wasn't it really? And probably try to stay away from him if you can. Paul generally gets to the point of the bend here and heads for the outside wing and comes up the stands rail. And JJ done the opposite and went in and had a clear passage and just tried, I suppose, not to get into a battle with him. Is probably the best way of describing it. Try not to get into a fight. I have to agree with you with Faster Slow. His form going right-handed obviously just looks a lot better. I suppose JJ would probably argue the point. Obviously would argue the point, but it mightn't have been a bad thing that I fell off him. Or got unseated off him, gotten unseated off him, because he's obviously had less of a race and he comes here arguably, whether he goes around loose and runs his race or not, he definitely comes here a fresher horse than what he would have if he had to get into a battle with him, because he definitely would have been at least second, I would have imagined, in Cheltenham, and then had a very hard race off the back of that,
Yeah. So I don't think obviously a punter will want to have 8 runners, but if those 3 horses turn up, and the possibility of Corrick Rambler, we could have an absolutely fantastic race.
Sometimes smaller races are more interesting for that because it puts more emphasis on the horse's tactical versatility in a race. Like if it's an even gallop in every race, that's grand, but a lot of horses don't want that, and the really good horses can do it every way.
And Faster Slow will outsprint him.
There we go, and I think he will.
That's why Paul Townend is the champion jockey and he won't turn into his
if he can hold up to the campaign he's had since the John Durkin here, and obviously he was beaten in that, but like he had an awfully hard race in the Gold Cup. So I'm reiterating the point I made earlier. There will be horse here that'll bomb out. I'm not saying he'll bomb out, but I think he's vulnerable, and he was beaten here last year.
Okay, so that's the race of the week for us, the Punchestown Gold Cup. Let's hope they all get there in one piece. Our second race is the 3-mile novices hurdle. I will be honest, I have absolutely no confidence in my selection, but he's the most obvious choice because I think he's fairly bulletproof. I think he'll turn up, he'll run his race. Do I think he's a future Gold Cup winner? No. That's Dancing City.
Well, I've gone for Reading. We've all gone for
They're different horses because it reflects the division this year is a little bit of a head scratcher. Reading Tommy Wrong blew out at Cheltenham. He was an on-runner at Aintree. What's going on?
I love the story of Authorised coming back from Turkey to stand for 25 grand as a National Hunt Stallion. Like, he couldn't make it up, but he's gotten obviously very good horses. He's gotten Tiger Roll. He's gotten the winner of the Gold Cup, or the Grand National rather. Reading Tommy Wrong for me would not have wanted that ground at all at Cheltenham, and he went in with a big reputation, and I'm more than willing to forgive him.
Okay. Pulled up.
Yeah, I didn't go yard though. Didn't go yard. Nothing came up after the race. I look at his naze form and Firefox in behind, and I know that naze form can be a little bit in and out. But 3 miles in this ground, Authorised speed will come into it on good ground. Yeah.
Okay.
At the prices.
Barry, better days ahead. Better days ahead. Not as good as brighter days ahead, but go on.
Could be. Good performance in the Martin Pipe, and it's a race that has produced lots of quality performers.
We
over the
know,
years.
yeah.
Beat Waterford Whispers, who was well fancied. Obviously, who ran a bit keen, but it was still a good performance for the winner. I think can build on that. 2.5 miler on Cheltenham versus 3 miler on the Albert Bartlett is a tougher race, the Albert Bartlett. So he's less to overcome. He hasn't been to Aintree. He's coming here fresh. I think a horse on the up.
You think if you're Jack Kennedy, Stellar Story is on Sean's board, you would no doubt pick him?
Stellar Story stayed on really well to win the Albert Bartlett. Had a tough time in doing it, but he's a good solid stayer. Cheltenham is a different challenge than Punchestown. You mightn't just get the end-to-end gallop. You don't have the uphill finish. Stellar Story, arguably maybe a little bit lucky to benefit from Jukebox Boy at the last.
The Jukebox Man.
Jukebox Man, sorry, yeah. So, no, I like the horse, the up-and-coming horse coming up and trip as well. I think he's a bit more class for me than Stellar Story.
Better days ahead for Barry, but Sean, you like the Albert Bartlett winner?
Yeah, I suppose Barry touched on it. He stayed on really strongly. Whether he's better on a little bit nicer ground or not, I suppose remains to be seen. I see Willie's horse, is that Dancing City's favourite, isn't he?
Yes.
He was third in the race. And I just think, I suppose possibly my lad might be a better chaser in the making, but I think he's got a lot of class with him too.
Moving on to the Punchestown bumper, let's be honest. The race everybody wants to win.
Well, this is it. How did you get on?
Really hard race to win. Thanks very much, Johnny.
How did you get on it?
First ride, bang.
Who was that?
For David Pipe, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
the liquidator. I'd say
that's right, yeah.
He didn't do too much after, but he gave me a good day.
Lovely.
If I was riding in it this year, I think Romeo Coolio is the one I'd like to be on. And three of us agree. So talk to me, Sean. You've given a notable mention to the Barry Connell horse.
Yeah, Romeo Coolio, not straightforward. Keith was fantastic, and I thought at Cheltenham completely switched him off and got a fantastic run through the race now, all down the paint all the way, and it all opened up for him and got the gaps where he needed. But then it's arguable. You always kind of get the gaps when you have a horse that you're able to get into the gaps on.
He's some speed. He has
some looker.
He has real tactical speed.
I would argue the point that Keith really rode him with another day in mind. He got him completely switched off and left the race completely on fold for him, and he's come home well enough to affect from a long ways back. And if he does come forward from the experience of the run that he had at Cheltenham, I think he'd be a fair horse here today, as long as they can keep a lid on him.
I would agree with all of that. I think, while Punchestown has a great atmosphere, it's not the circus that Cheltenham is. And from a riding perspective, I don't think we'll have as big a field. If Harry Swan chooses to ride him over Yasmin DeVoe, or not Yasmin DeVoe, Jalon Dudaris, I think he'll know exactly what to do. And you basically agree, Barry?
Yeah, plus as well, the pace of the race at Punchestown could be a little bit more. I won't say sedate, but won't be run at the same tempo as Cheltenham. So I think that will play to Romeo Coolio's strength. Patrick Mullins was brilliant on the winner in Cheltenham, but the race unfolded for him to ride him that way. I'm not so sure dropping him in here is going to unfold as easy. Now, he mightn't drop him in as far, but I think Romeo Coolio's pace, to me, just gives him the edge.
Yeah, I do often feel, though, in these big bumpers that Willie has the capacity to control the race. So if he wants it to be an end-to-end gallop, he'll have another runner in it to do that. So I actually don't think Romeo Coolio would have a problem with an end-to-end gallop because he's keen. Class is class. I think he's a class horse. Shuttle Diplomacy, interesting one. Great that Tommy Cooper looks like to have a really exciting horse.
Yeah,
is he as good as he's looked?
Well, I tipped up Romeo Coolio at Cheltenham, so I'm only going against him on reluctance on the basis of the price, because this is going to be a crack for a race. Like Sean mentioned, William Money here, he didn't go to Cheltenham. Shuttle Diplomacy didn't go to Cheltenham. The other horse didn't go to Cheltenham. Brian Cooper said he was working like a grade 1 horse before he ran, and I was down there the last day in Limerick. I don't think he really, I'm not sure he's in love with that ground. It was awfully testing ground, and he's loads of gears, this horse. And that Tom Cooper, after that race, honestly was like a 5-year-old who was being told, like, we're going to Disneyland. He was buzzing. And like, if that were Willie Mullins, with all respect, it was just a bumper winner in Limerick. This is my point. Like, you need this in racing, and I love to see Tom Cooper win this. So slightly sentimental, but I am. But
yeah, he does look good, and I'm going to give an honourable mention to Harbour Highway as well for Emmett Mullins. But we haven't touched on William Money. He beat Sata Chance at Navan. That horse blew out in air the other day. But Barry Connell has been effusive in his praise of this Westerner horse.
Yeah, no, I I would probably argue the fact that the Nace run, it wasn't it his second run, like it was they hacked around and he literally sprinted from 2 furlongs down to the winning post. So we haven't exactly seen a dour test of his stamina or anything like that. He just looked like a flat horse coming up the straight. And now in fairness, the way he done it quite impressively. He sprinted 7,
he showed
8, 10.
gears.
Yeah, he showed lots and lots of gears.
Yeah.
So if this here didn't go quick early and it did turn into a sprint, we know he has that in him, but we just don't know how well he stays or how quick he'll be off a stronger run gallop.
Now, I didn't think that we would be here talking about the Punchestown Festival and considering Cork Rambler an outsider. But on 2 of the boards...
Not on mine, actually.
2 of the boards, he's an outsider. That's probably a reflection of the race. But let's be honest, we didn't think Cork Rambler would be coming to Punchestown. Circumstances have transpired that he's here, essentially.
Yeah, and the Gold Cup was a prep for the Grand National. So there's potential for improvement from his Gold Cup run. So
what happened in the National?
In the National, well, look at you.
So many of us were...
It happens, but it's a famous thing to happen in the Grand National. So you just have to draw a line, forget about it. Jumping isn't usually an issue. He is a very good horse. He's beaten fast or slow at the Cheltenham Festival. I know you can argue fast or slow is better going right-handed. But it's still, he has form lines there, and his run in the Gold Cup allow for improvement. I'd say he's overpriced for what he has achieved.
Yeah, his run in the Gold Cup was top notch. You'd have to, I'd imagine, Sean, that's why you have him there. He's an improving horse. I think what happened at Aintree was...
There was no fear of it happening the year before, was it?
No.
No.
Sorry about that, Vanillier. Sorry about that.
But yeah, look at, he's just gone down to the first in Aintree and he's given a bit of a belt, and then he's actually... it's hard to say he's fallen at the second. He's kind of got knocked over at the second fence.
Well loose.
While loose, yeah. So he did take a fall after unseating as well. But if you, as you said, the fact that the Gold Cup was only a prep run, I don't know. You'd wonder, did they maybe not think he was going to run as well as he did in the Gold Cup?
Maybe.
Would you have not have? I know the Grand National is the Grand National, but if you had thought he was that good, would you not have been kind of campaigning him for a Gold Cup rather than the Grand National?
That's a question for the William Hill Ambassador, Lucinda Russell. Mahler Mission all came to a close.
Nobody falls obviously in the Grand National anymore, God forbid, because we don't want fallers and chases, because obviously it should get around, should be a glorified flat race. But he didn't complete, neither did Cork Rambler. And if John McConnell comes here, why not? Let's go for it. This horse has loads of ability. If I were an owner,
do you think he needs soft ground?
It's a question mark. Yeah, it is a bit of a question mark.
It was good to soft in Newbury when he was second. That's all right.
Actually, the ground wasn't as bad that day.
Yeah, the chase track is quicker as well, and Newbury were on the inside.
He is an outsider, but I'm very respectful of Cork Rambler, very respectful. Hopefully, Mahler Mission shows up. And if I were an owner and you had a chance to run a horse at the end of the season at Punchestown in any race, why not? Let's. It's a brilliant festival.
They're going out to grass anyway. I exactly 100% agree. My outsider is Harbour Highway. I was very impressed with what I saw from him at Navan. JP McManus owned the second horse, subsequently bought the winner. And I think for Emmett Mullins, he could run a big race in what looks like a vintage renewal of the bumper. The stories of the day, of day 2. Barry, you're going to go with the Gold Cup. I too have gone with the Gold Cup. The race of the week for me. I cannot wait.
Oh, definitely. And brilliant. And you see then last year, with the favourite getting beaten. So everything is opposable. There's lots of chances. It's not just a 2-horse race where, we're making a case for Cork Rambler. And Mahler Mission was my reserve on the outsider list, so he's definitely one with a squeak. So no, it's a brilliant race. I didn't elaborate like you didn't and call it vintage. So Jane,
Self and Sean have gone for a Shark Hewick more or less. I mean, that is the obvious. For a horse to cost, most horses really should cost 800 quid because training fees are so high. Essentially, most horses cost you an awful lot of money. So it's not most horses should cost around about $1,000 because it's once you start paying the training fees, you realise that they're very expensive. But Hewick costs nothing, and look what he's done. Yeah,
and for what you're talking about cost, what it costs to market, promote, endorse, exactly. And what this horse has done free of charge is you can't quantify that, Sean. The belief that he has given people that they could find a King George winner.
Yeah, and the thing about it is too that they can go to their local trainer down the road, as in the Shark. It doesn't have to be Willie or Gordon or Gavin. You can go to your smaller trainer, and it can be a bit more personalised, I'd imagine, and the shark is more than happy to go along on the journey with it.
You'd have a bit of crack with the shark.
You would, in fairness, yeah.
I'd say you'd be a few cups of tea there in the evening.
Jesus, yeah. Like all the point horses now basically become they're bought before they're anything, right? So it's become harder and harder for a Hewitt story to happen, and when it does, you got to cherish it.
Well, racing is unpredictable. You never know who's going to win the next King George and who's going to win the Punchestown Gold Cup. Have we hit on the winner? Have we picked the right horses? Do let us know. On to day 3 of the Punchestown Festival, a pair of Grade 1s here, including the Barberstown Castle Champion Novices Chase and the Stairs Hurdle. So 2 Grade 1s for us to list, your outsider of the day and your storyline of the day. Guys, you know what to do. And day 3 of the Punchestown Festival, just as easy as 1, 2, 3. Starting with the Stairs Hurdle, we are not all in agreement. 3 of us are on Team Tupo. So, Johnny, why won't Tupo win?
I'm going at the prices Buddy won and the ground. Tiopo, it's a beautiful day here in Punchestown. I'm pretty certain Tiopo was better on easy ground as he got at Cheltenham. He was fantastic at Cheltenham. I'd love to see Irish Point take him on in this race. I think he'd beat him over 3 miles. They're not going to run. So Buddy won, and more on that and on because I have it as my 4th selection as well.
Okay, well, I would argue, Barry, that Tupo has the pace to win Hatton's Grace over 2.5 miles and has a turn of foot. I would argue he's actually better at that distance and wins the 3 miles because he's got class.
Yeah, I wrote him work a couple of years ago. And the one thing I took out of it was this fella isn't ground dependent, he's trip dependent. So I would say soft ground over 2.5, ideal. Better ground over 3 mile for me isn't an issue. He was more workmanlike last year in the Stairs Hurdle. He was better performance this year. I think he's a horse on the up. I think they've trained him really well. And no, he was my banker at the festival, and he would be probably my banker here this week if you ignore the short ones, really short ones of Willie. I think there's good value on Tiopo.
And Sean, he hasn't had a hard season. I remember they came in after the Hatton's Grace and said straight to March, and I was thinking, oh my God, here we go again, horses avoiding horses. But it worked out for them, and he's coming here with only his 3rd run of the year.
Yeah, no, he's been fantastically trained, but I think all the way along through his career, they're training him that way now because he seems like he's improving from every run as long as he has time between them. I would have originally thought that he was a bit ground dependent, but this year at Cheltenham and he's letting his Hatton's Grace run kind of starting to change my mind a bit, but I think it's a strengthening and physical strengthening thing that he's able to handle it a little bit better. I do think Irish Point on the bit of nicer ground, and I know I'm saying nicer ground, but I think he'd be sharper than him. So he's obviously going champion hurdle, so that takes him out. And if you go back down through it, there's not a whole lot there to beat him. You're talking chasers and things coming back.
Sir de Burley kind of passed his best. Home by the Lee wants soft ground. Dashel Drasher, will he come? What he won? I'll get on to him myself in a minute as you have him listed. But we'll talk about the 2 mile Novices Chase. I love this division this year. The Arkle has turned into a fabulous race with Ilete Tomb and found the 50. I'm going Gaelic Warrior, Johnny's going Gaelic Warrior, and Barry, Gaelic Warrior was in consideration for the Celebration Chase. He's coming here. Is he as good as they all think and suggest that he might be?
Well, he looked that way, and as you mentioned, the form has worked out really well. But to me, he's going to be better again going right-handed. He has a tendency to jump right. I thought Paul Townend smuggled him around in the Arkle. Very few people, I think, gave Paul the credit for the
He made it look easy, and it's not.
That's the beauty.
One fence at a time.
Oh my God, but when you make things look simple that aren't simple, that's when you're doing your job. And Paul isn't recognised for how brilliant he was there. So no, I think he's a very, very good horse. He will be, for me, he'd be streets ahead, especially going right-handed.
That's why jockeys giving analysis post-race on what jockeys did, I think, is totally criminally underused in racing because it's fascinating. You see Ruby doing it and Barry talking there. Most people miss that.
Yeah, he does seem to have, he obviously won over 2-3 on heavy at Limerick, but he is versatile.
Oh, last year, Jane, I laid him last year. I thought he's a good chance he's not going to get 3 miles, and his performance is extraordinary. He's like, this horse is going to win a Gold Cup. He probably won't ever win a Gold Cup, but I'd still love to see him at 3 miles around here. He's not going to be around here over 3 miles. Not entirely sure He's at his best over 2 miles, but as Barry says, going this way, it's going to be a cracking race. Having said that,
Yeah, it makes but for a jockey, it makes life easier because you can slacken your rein, Barry, and you don't have to fight him.
Well, you could say that. He's going to be a handful anyway,
Yeah.
but at least you don't have the inconvenience of him trying to go right when you're going left. It's the other way around. It'll be helping Paul that he's going to be going right. So he will settle easier. Paul will have an easier time. He won't have to be as particular in every, you're talking muscle movement, anything. You flinch a muscle on a horse like him or leave him an opportunity to go right, game's up.
He's in here in the suite with everybody who's watching the race. Obviously, Paul will go for Gaelic Warrior. So Blood Destiny, possibly a Danny Mullins, Patrick Mullins mount. Good horse.
A very good horse, and the only reason I haven't gone with Gaelic Warrior, I think he was very, very good in Cheltenham, but I kind of have to draw my attention back. I know it's Leopardstown, I know it's going the wrong direction, but he was absolutely goosed that day when he unseated at the last fence.
Was that due to the fractions they set? They went 9 seconds faster than Hartwood had gone in the handicap chase, and that's at the finishing line when Factifile had been slowed down.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It has to have had a lot to do with it, and I'm not taking the fractions that they set on the day or anything like that into consideration. I'm just taking what toll it might have set to him. The fact that he's gone to Cheltenham and had a hard enough race there as well. I know Paul loves Blood Destiny, and I just said I'd go for something a bit.
that was one of the best match races of all time at Leopardstown. It just didn't work out in the day.
Yeah.
These are two extraordinary
It did
horses.
for
I think in hindsight, we're
It
going
did,
to
but it
look back
wasn't a
and see it
spectacle.
was
Like, it wasn't what it was.
amazing race.
Imagine if the two of them came to last on the bridle.
Yeah.
And Gaelic Warrior was to the left of the other lad. Like, do you know, you're like, what's going to happen here? It could have been if they rocked up against each other in a match race here at Punchestown over any trip.
Yeah.
What a
You
race it would be
could,
like.
you could argue Factifile may have slightly underperformed at the festival on the back foot, because to me he wasn't the wow there that he was at Leopardstown, albeit it was a good performance. I'd say there was better to come from him.
Wow.
I'd agree with that. Aside from the 2 grade ones, you're outsiders, and I think Sean and I agree. Buddy one for me. I'm gonna put it out there. Should have won an entry.
Yeah, it's a long enough straight entry, and it just got going a little bit early. And he ended up like he still jumped the last in front. He's had a hard race because of it, and that's why I put him up as an outsider. But
It would be another great story. We're talking about great stories, a family affair, and he's a very good horse.
that's why I've gone with him as a story. You know, like they're a very tight knit family, and they all ride. Obviously, the oldest of them struggles with weight. Danny then is taking it to a new level as regarding what he's doing, and then you have Jack, and tall lad, does well with his weight too, and tries hard. And look at, hopefully he'll be on him, and he could run a big race for him.
They're very likeable. I'm going to go through my last two here because I'm reiterating what Sean said with Blood Destiny. Basically, I think he could be valued. He's a brilliant jumper. But the Paul and Jack, I put that down by accident. And it's like, obviously the week's about Paul and Jack. This is Paul and Jack Gilligan because Danny could ride this horse. Do you see what I was, that was this what I was
you're so
alluding to?
clever.
Exactly. Yeah, completely unintentional, right? Paul and Jack, what a lovely family. Like South Galway, like real South Galway people, not a racing stronghold by any means, that part of the world. And to have a horse like this, they had Bertie's Dream and the Albert Bartlett back in the day. You know, Paul would have a lot of sort of run-of-the-mill horses. But like I was talking to Jack at Limerick, and he basically said there's no comparison between me and Danny. Jack is a good rider, like, and he, as Sean says, I think, in relation to entry, and you said he'll be willing to prove a point here. I'd love to see the two of them win.
But you learn lessons, and I think it's
Absolutely.
It's one of those things where you make it once and you won't make it again.
You learn more in defeat than victory at times.
Buddy one tracking Chupo into the straight might just be the recipe for a very good finish.
And they're going chasing with them, I think.
Wow.
Which is going to be exciting. Yeah, plenty they're going to chase next season. So, wonder is there a novice chase at Galway he could go for? Why not?
We'll see. Will he get any blade of grass this summer? But one horse will be chasing is Arcule de Soy. Has been a bit mad in the past, Barry. Is he settling?
Yeah, but he wasn't helped by Matata wiping him out at the start of the entry. Was keen. Mark took him out of the race down the back straight, and he finished well. That was his first run back. I think he's a horse who can build on that. I think he can be, the freshness could be just gone off him slightly on the back of that. So he's a horse who can build on that run. And I like that as well. Against the favourite, who's going to be hard to beat, against the opposition, I'd fancy him to possibly chase home the favourite. Okay,
so you're talking about the freshness might be gone off him, but your storyline of the day could be that horses need to be fresh.
Some.
Would that help the chances of the horses you've listed, or is that a reason you're going to look beyond the obvious?
Well, Tia Hoopu benefited from that at Cheltenham. He didn't benefit from last year. He won the Galmoy the previous year and bombed out in the Champion Hurdle. So he's a horse that needs to be fresh.
Bombed out is a bit harsh. No, he ran well in it.
In the Champion Hurdle?
Or in the, sorry, I'm thinking of the, yeah.
No, the year before.
Sorry.
Not always.
Barry's never wrong.
Johnny.
Barry's never wrong.
He's not always
It's
right.
rare.
He's never wrong. Yeah.
It's rare.
So yeah,
well trained as well.
49 days from Cheltenham to Aintree. It's important. You know, people are talking about we need to see these horses, and Willie has, you know, been kept Galloping the Champ busy, and it'll be brilliant if he can come back and win the Gold Cup. But you've also seen Album Photo and Cuvega protected for 10 months of the year.
What do you do between Cheltenham? I asked this to Willie, kind of. What do you do between Cheltenham and Punchestown to have him ride for Punchestown after the year he's had Galloping the Champ?
I'd say very little. You have to take it and trust. You know, you hope he's well. If you gallop him too much, you know, he has enough time as well, because you have an extra week this year nearly. But it just depends on the recovery. If your horse recovers, you put him back into work. If he hasn't recovered, you just have to wait and hope. Sprinter Sacre came here after doing the Aintree Cheltenham double and did the treble here, and Nicky didn't work him. We schooled him. He says if he schools well, we'll run him. So I schooled him, felt great, ran him, job done. So you take it and trust.
Willie's never going to tell you, because you're going to tell the world, and then
No.
everybody knows how Willie Mullins produces the magic then.
And Willie was particularly forthright that morning.
Magician never gives away his secrets.
Well, he did actually, because he showed us, he let Tom walk, and he goes, watch the way this horse walks. I've never seen the way he walked at Aintree and all this. He was giving us, Willie was like,
I was there.
It was a good night now they had the night before, like, so you know the way the next morning you're kind of very open about, you're like, oh my God, I'll talk away here. Willie was telling us everything. I'll never get inside his head though.
He showed you walking him along the gallop, or he didn't show you cantering him though.
No, he actually didn't. Maybe I missed that.
Okay, so that is your storyline. My storyline is King George or Champion Chase or Melbourne Cup. What horse could that be about?
God, this is
You had him up already.
George or Champion Chase or Melbourne Cup.
So it's when Gaelic Warrior wins so impressively over 2 miles.
Not a flat horse now.
I'm getting
Okay,
to
sorry,
the point.
Jane, sorry.
Sometimes I have a sense of humour, sometimes. He gets to the point where he's crossing the line and Willie Mullins is straight away asked what's he going to do next year, and he will say could be Champion Chaser, could be a Gold Cup horse. And then I did laugh when I thought only he could possibly throw in the curveball of, you know, all bar the Mayor's Hurdle, basically. So I wonder what next year will hold for Gaelic Warrior, but this year he's going to win the 2 mile Champion Chase so impressively that those questions will be posed.
Well, the day we're at the yard, he's like, what rating does Fernie Hollow have for the Galway Hurdle? 147. Could happen. You just never know.
Happen. Well, Galway is months away. Punchestown is what we're on the agenda. That's day 3, guys. Let's see what the listeners and the viewers think. Maybe we're talking through our hat. Day 4 of the Punchestown Festival is all about the Champion Hurdle, 2 Grade 1s, also featuring the 2 mile 3 Novices Hurdle. I want the 2 Grade 1 winners, I want the outsider, and I want the story of the day. Get to it. Okay, day 4. I'm sure the stamina will be kicking in around now. Tell me, who is going to win the 2 Grade 1s? I did have to look twice. Barry Slade Steele is at the top of your list, but obviously there's a very beautifully artistic arrow in there. We're concurring that State Man is top dog in the 2 mile division.
Yeah, he is. Obviously, the opposition dictates that Constitution Hill isn't here and hasn't been since Christmas. So he was 9 lengths behind him last year. He is a very, very good horse. Probably doesn't get the recognition he deserves. So against the opposition he's going to be hard to beat. Bob Ollinger, to me, really struggled at 2 mile in Leopardstown. I don't see him being a massive threat. Irish Point beat Magical Zoe in Dunroyal earlier in the season. I don't see that being good enough at this level. So
who is his biggest threat? Would it be Irish Point?
Yeah, I thought Irish Point would have been his biggest threat. Like, I looked down through the race and you're struggling to find a danger, and then that kind of that says itself, really. He's a very good jumper, so that's not really a problem to him. He's been here before. The fact he's gone and done the Cheltenham and come back here last year even being beaten says itself. I think he'd be a banker of the week.
Banker of the week, I'd have to agree. He's so solid. And Johnny, I actually thought he won at Cheltenham despite massively underperforming. I didn't think he turned up.
It's interesting to say that because last year Paul Townend reckoned he didn't perform either behind Constitution Hill. He's a bit like Buzz Aldrin, like the second man on the moon. Nobody really remembers him because it's all about who's Neil Armstrong. I don't remember him either, but it's all about Constitution Hill. It's ever like Stateman is just he's great, but like Constitution Hill.
But he's not the moon.
Battered him last year. I'm not entirely sure Constitution Hill is as good as he looked relative to him that day, and Stateman's extraordinary. But as Sean said, like Irish Point's an exceptional horse. I think Irish Point should run over 3 miles because he's a stayer with speed, to quote Dermot Weld. But I obviously am going for Stateman, yeah.
You think Irish Point's an exceptional horse, but you don't?
I do, because he was second in champion hurdle and he won a grade 1 over 3 miles easily. He's very unexposed over 3 miles, and he was he was late off the bridle at Cheltenham. And it wasn't a great champion hurdle, but Irish Point doesn't get the credit he deserves.
So you think that Irish Point's a better horse than Stateman?
No, I don't. No. I think he should be running 3 miles.
You call him exceptional and Stateman not the moon.
Stateman is. I'm still not sure how good he is, because will he ever run against Constitution Hill again?
Stateman.
Of course, next year.
Next year.
Yeah, I'd nearly go Novice Chase him at Stateman now and send some of the others. Because he's done it now twice.
That's why you're here, Johnny. For the curveballs.
Anyway,
happen.
But he's all these champion hurdlers like that he could run next year. Stateman, champion hurdle gets boring after a while. Let's go over fences.
Okay.
Well, I'd rather win a champion hurdle than get killed over fences, unfortunately. You know what I mean?
There is that, yeah. I'd love to see
more. He's a very good jumper. He jumps hurdles possibly like he might actually want a fence in time. But there's nothing here to beat him in the bracket, so why would you bother?
Stateman is about as reliable a racehorse I think is in training.
Unbelievable. Yet you think he wasn't his best at Cheltenham?
Yeah, I was just going to say he scraped in the champion hurdle.
I stood down at the last hurdle.
Well,
he went to the last hurdle looking like he was just going to jet away, and he didn't pick up. Stateman always picks up. He won because he is by far and away a better horse than Irish Point. I'd say, like when Sprinter Slacker came here, he has enough in reserve to win anyway. But he's better in a home game.
By far and away, but Irish Point wants 3 miles in my view. So I think Irish Point is really, really good. He just was running over the wrong trip because he's that good. If that makes sense. Because they have Teopo.
The next best in the race this week.
Arguably, then on that point, if he wanted 3 miles and Stateman didn't pick up from the back of the last line, should he not have outstayed him?
Yeah, possibly, yeah. But it wasn't a fast run race either. Possibly.
Stateman picked up enough.
I think, yeah.
It's his weakest performance. If he repeats that, he's there for the taking as well. Which I'm presuming he's back to normal duty.
A bit better on better ground?
Not necessarily.
Hasn't been an issue in the past.
No.
Yeah. I would have thought the mare would make it interesting, Lossiemouth, had she ran at Cheltenham, but she didn't, and we're talking about hypothesis. We're all in on Slade Steele. Oh, you put in Ballyburn.
I just put in.
Go 2-3.
I bet you Willie's gonna, and I've changed my mind since doing day 1 here. Willie's gonna change his mind. Yeah, we'll win the first one, Mystical Power, and we'll win this with Ballyburn.
There's no chance he run the 2 days now.
Probably not. Dermot Weld once told me he ran a horse twice in the same card at Laytown.
Yeah, but they were the good old days.
They were the good old days. He only told me now because the horse won, but there we go.
Yeah. Okay, so Slade Steele, it's pretty self-explanatory. He's a gorgeous horse. I'd love to see him over fences next year. Rachel, I thought, was particularly simplistic on him in the Supreme, and I'd imagine a replica of that would suffice.
I would imagine so too. Good performance. Performance obviously worked out well with Mystical Power and Firefox too. So no, really good performance. But gave away momentum at the last and still pulled out and was a strong winner at the line. So he's a horse on the up.
He is. Okay, so our outsiders away from the top grade ones. I'm going to start with mine. Captain Cody won the grade 2 at Fairyhouse. I think like a really improving horse. Jody Town back on board. Paul can't seem to win on him. I think he's quite a good horse, and I think he could run a good race in the grade 1 novices hurdle.
Jody has one of the best strike rates you'll ever see.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time she's not actually riding the favourite.
Well, this was her first ride against professionals in a grade 2 Fairyhouse, and she managed to get the job done.
I think she should have turned pro, to be honest.
Well, she's still a young girl. She could still do that if she wants. If you're watching in, Jody, Johnny Ward knows what he's talking about. Jericho Rapine is going to run the same race. I didn't realise he was coming, so I might have put him down if I did.
Well, he's in the entries. I didn't have any confirmation, but
he was my outsider for the Supreme. He's a better horse than we saw,
and I think he'd be better up on trip as well. So 2 mile, I always felt it was on the sharp edge for him. I think up on trip's going to suit him. He is a good horse. He's highly thought of, and he comes there fresh as well.
And you won't see a better looking horse all week. What's your outsider?
I'm a bit like what Barry's saying. Their Asian master might not run this race, but definitely this horse has a lot of ability. I'd step him up in trip. I'd run him in this.
Okay, Tom Costello, big ride for him. And Irish Point is your outsider just against the Fav.
Yeah, just in case.
Fairly self-explanatory. But Bob Ollinger, were you happy enough with him in the champion hurdle at Leopardstown to suggest 2 miles was okay?
No, I kind of have him down more of a story than anything else. Like the fact that he kind of completely went off the boil and he was completely gone for a year. And I think Henry's done a fantastic
Many
job.
people would have retired him.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%, because he had been to all the heights and he'd done everything that needed to be done. And for him to come back to the level that he's at now and obviously just get touched off at the entry and to come back here, it'd be fantastic, I think.
Was it the wrong decision by the stewards at Aintree?
No.
I disagree.
You can't give the race to the third.
No, I didn't
So
think he
Sean-
did it.
No, I
Bob
get...
Ollinger
can't-
finished second.
Yeah, but you can't give the race to the third was worse off than Bob Ollinger. Like
where
it was
where
very
do you draw
messy.
the line?
Because,
Because,
exactly.
you know, if it, like Townend's horse was jumping right and he was doing everything in his power to get it back in, and like should Rachel have gone inside him? If she had the horse to go inside him, she should have had. Where do you draw the line when it comes to Stewart's inquiries? Because from a rider's point of view, it's already farcical at this point where they're doing lads for silly things and giving them silly amount of days, and it's race riding at the end of the day. You're trying to control the animal as best you can. Paul's
Under pressure.
Paul is at everything in his power to keep him from going right, whilst trying to win the race at the same time. Because if he concentrates solely on trying to keep him straight and loses the race, then you have punters going mental that he didn't try. So you have
Sean
to...
Flanagan was in a rush home, and now you get him on race riding. The man could be all day. Like
People might be interested to know their opinion on it.
I find that fascinating.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Barry, as far as I'm aware, there's no horse running this week called Marathon.
And I don't intend running one either. So no, I'm here for the first 2 days, and I will.
Are you with me for the first 2
I'm
days?
with you on Tuesday. I'm operating solo Wednesday, and I am going to take Thursday off.
What's operating solo? A jolly like.
No, I'm not
Having a
no,
good
no.
time.
Well, no, I'll be doing a little bit of work, but I'll be driving, so I won't be on the last year style, Johnny. There'll be no pints of Guinness.
Some crack.
It's 5 full-on days. You obviously need a little recess.
I'm glad to take the opportunity, and I'll bounce back in on Friday, full of life.
Jatara and Jessica.
I'm not wherever Jatara goes. Jessica Harrington have to win her here. Have a winner given what she's come through. She looks unbelievable. I've seen her twice in the last week at the yard. She looks unbelievable. She was gone out trimming hedges, I think, when I left, and then she was planting tomatoes. Unbelievable woman. A track that'll always be synonymous with Moscow Flyer. Won the charity race here under Kate. Jessica Harrington, special woman in racing. I think she'd a winner, bring the house down.
Yeah, and the relation Jessica, of course, won grade ones here. I think for the few runners that she has, she's always worthy of respect. My story of the week is no matter what State Man does in the champion hurdle, everybody will say how far Concentration Hill would have beaten him by, but I would venture to say that to become a great, he needs to turn up.
Agree.
Next year, let's see him.
If he's okay to go, in fairness, because there's some things you can't deal with illness wise. Hopefully he's okay.
But then
To become a great, he'll have to be okay.
Yeah.
That's day 4 of Punchestown. Day 5 of the Punchestown Festival is where the stamina really kicks in. 2 grade 1s, the 4-year-old champion hurdle and the mayor's champion hurdle. Give us an outsider and give us the story of the day, which is probably going to be the story of the week. Get going. For the final time, let's reveal our selections for Punchestown 2024. We begin with the 4-year-old hurdle and a couple of bottled secrets.
Here we go. Look at this. Unanimity.
Well, not really.
Oh, well.
It's
Well,
all
lads.
contingent on whether my horse comes. Is that fair?
I'm going to start. I love Bottler Secret. Gavin's been on about him for ages. Sean had known better than me from maybe hearing a bit from the yard and so on. Have you read him at all?
I want a listed hurdle on him. Yes.
You rode him in Nace. Sean rode him in Nace. And that day, that's how bad my brain is. That day when Sean rode him, I'm looking at Sean come down the back. I was at the second last, you gave him a squeeze and he's like, ooh, this horse has something. Obviously the last day Keith rode him. How did I forget that? So the two, what feel did he give you?
He's a fantastic horse. He's obviously lots of work done home and all smart work. Like, we loved him going there, but the first mile and a half in Nace, like, I'm thinking, oh, I'm going nowhere.
Behind the bridle.
Yeah, and I'm conscious that I don't want to light him up either, but I'm jumping big and bold up in the air and land back second last, click, click, and I am gone. Yeah,
Love that.
Smart horse now. Yeah, smart horse.
Can you tell Johnny likes him?
The last day at Fairyhouse though was another level again. Like, this is a proper race, and he bolted in.
Yeah, he's very exciting for Gavin. But Barry, in the context of all the 4-year-olds we've seen this year, he didn't go to Cheltenham, so we don't really have a parallel of form. Is he up to this standard?
I think so. Definitely, yeah. No, he's visually impressive. You know, he's a horse that catches your eye. As Sean mentioned, as Johnny mentioned, you know, good horses make themselves known. This fella put his hand up and said,
Look at me.
Look at me. So no, I'm a big fan.
Not that Sergino is bad though.
No, but it all depends on if he comes, and if he does come, I figure he will be the horse to beat. But no doubt, Bottler's Secret could be anything. He fits into the completely unquantifiable category at the moment. Maybe you could say that Lassie Mouth fits into that category because she's really yet to be tested in open company. She was my banker of the festival at Cheltenham. She at no stage had me worried. And she'll be my banker of the week at Punchestown, Johnny.
Yeah, Mare's race is not for me. Certainly not at Cheltenham. She'll be taken on State Man and see how good she is. But she's an amazing mare.
I saw her at Mullins's last week, Barry. She's light. She's really, really fit looking. This is made for her.
Oh, definitely. No, she is a major contender for next year's champion hurdle. So I'd love to think they won't be going for the mare's race next year. Okay. It's possibly the right choice for her, you can argue, at her age, being a 5-year-old, but she oozes class.
She has all of the attributes, Sean. I'm pretty sure you concur.
Yeah, like we spoke about it earlier on with State Man. Did he underperform a little bit? I bet Town would have been scratching his head if this one pitched up, which one he was going to ride in the champion hurdle this year. And yeah, I'd actually loving to see her taking him on in Cheltenham. But I think she's certain to hear.
Mare's races they have no place in Cheltenham, in my view, at all.
Yeah, I would strongly disagree with you, but unfortunately this is not the platform to debate that. We'll get Claire Byrne a little bit of
Claire will be against both sides of the argument.
No, she can moderate between the two if somebody has to. Ashdale Bob, disappointing for me. Never won a race in open company. Why should he do it now?
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of just went from he's ultra consistent at the same time. Never won, but always knocking on the door. He's an outsider's price, and I give him an outsider's chance. He's in the handicap hurdle on the last day, yeah.
Okay.
Jesse's quite sweet on him.
Anything Jessica Harrington trains we respect?
He's got graded form as well. Place graded form, back to a handicap.
Okay, Ashdale Bob in handicap. Filey Bay, another one for JP McManus.
Yeah, I'm throwing him a lifeline. Second in last year's Betfair hurdle, ground softer than ideal. Third in the county, softer than ideal. I think he, on the ground, returning to that level of form, I think there's a good day in him. Now, JP would also have Waterford Whispers in there as well. You could make a very strong case for. But Filey Bay to me is a horse who promised a bit. We haven't seen it since then, but he has the potential, I think, to win a big one. Yeah.
Win a big one. And Johnny is going for Carl de Bros.
Carl de Terrell, bad riding. Yeah, won at Goran at 100-1 when the race fell apart. I really fancied him at Limerick. He was beaten in a 4-runner race, but the race just too slowly run. And then I had a good bet in Bottler's Secret at Fairyhouse, and this was the lad that came as the danger. It's like, if he beats me here now in a grade 2, right good horse. So Philip Fenton has a couple of nice horses at the moment, and not sure about the better ground, but he's capable of running a good race.
Yeah, I remember, was he 100-1 when he won at Gorn?
Yeah. The race literally, they went so hard on unraceable ground, he just kept going and the rest of them fell into a hole.
Yeah. My outsider is Ashrow Diamond. She might be hidden in plain sight. I think she's in foal. This will be her last run in the mare's race, and I think Willie Mullins will fill all the placings in that mare's race as well. She may well be the first and second for Team Clesutton, which, let's be honest, they're going to have a huge week. For the last 2 years, Willie Mullins has farmed 9 of the 12 Grade 1s run at the Punchestown Festival. It's likely that this week will be no different. I am going to just say all hail King Willie. Of course, there's a little subtle innuendo there that he's going to be crowned King of England as well. So
we'll also use William for the William Hill sponsors. You got all the bases covered.
I just gave him his proper title because when you become a royal, you become Catherine, not Kate. And you know what I was getting at there. But he is the trainer of our generation. He should be crowned manager of the year, no matter what happens at the Paris Olympics. And because his consistency is so incredible, we become complacent and accept it as the normal. It is not normal what he is doing. It hasn't been done since Vincent O'Brien over 70 years ago. So when people talk about Willie Mullins and his effect on racing, and some people suggest his effect is negative on racing, it's not his fault. He is the best at what he does.
Bring all that to RT, that's class.
I do every day.
Yeah, that's class.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more.
As for you guys, you're going for champion jockey. Call it here and now. Who is it going to be?
Paul.
Whoever rides the most winners.
Oh, get off the fence.
Well, possession is 9/10 of the law, Jane. And Jack has a 6-winner lead going into the Punchestown Festival. So if he has that, that's a fair head start. So Paul has to be on the right winners and has to survive the week, because it can be a tough enough week for a rider. The ambulance room will be busy. So I'm not wishing anything on anyone, but I think Jack has a I'd rather be 6 ahead than be 6 behind.
Very, very briefly, Paul is going to pick horses and have to not pick horses that everyone in the country would want to ride otherwise in the race, because there's not that much between them, and he will get some wrong.
Okay.
It has to be touched on as well that it's a credit to both of them. Like I think there are maybe 20 odd winners behind the lads in the UK, and there's a lot more racing in the UK. So they've pitched up a lot of meetings here and rolled winners. And I do think Paul is at a very minute disadvantage over the past 2 weeks that Willie is targeting trying to win the UK title. He's spent a bit of time over
More than minute, it's a big issue, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of those horses would have been running here. Now, whether they've been here in Punchestown or spread out over the last 10 days remains to be seen. But I think both of them should stand on the podium there and be proud of what they've done for the year.
Well said. When we were at the yard, it was like, Willie's like, yeah, whatever about the, winning the title. I kind of want to win a championship in Britain. So Paul is Paul, but I have my own thing to do. It was kind of interesting. It's like they were fighting their own individual battles here.
Yeah, but he also said Paul is his own championship to win. He is behind him. He's supporting him.
He's running a horse down Patrick on Friday, which was a bit totally for that.
I want a name. Just a name.
Paul.
Jack.
I think Paul.
I'd agree. 3 votes for Paul. We might be wrong. Let's see. It's going to be a fantastic week. So that concludes our Punchestown 2024 preview. I hope you enjoyed our anecdotes. Did you agree with some of our selections? If you don't agree, do let us know in the comments section below. My thanks to Johnny, to Barry and to Sean for their time. Enjoy the festival. Thanks again for watching. If you would like to see us rank our top 5 Punchestown heroes, then click the link on the video below. This show is brought to you by William Hill Ireland. 18+, and please gamble responsibly.